So today we're going to be taking a look at Seiko's new Presage series. It is kind of like an updated cocktail time. It is in a smaller case diameter. It has a beautiful dial, and let's get into it. So we have a diameter of 38.4, a lug to lug of 45.1, a height of 11.9, and we have a lug width of 20 millimeters. So some other general specifications for this watch. We have the Seiko 4R35 movement beating in here. It is technically rated to plus 45 to minus 35 seconds a day. Usually they perform much better than that. My particular model is currently running at plus 5 seconds a day, which is pretty good. It has a give or take around 40-hour power reserve. We have this box-shaped hard-lex crystal, and I know that's going to be a point of contention for some people. We have 50 meters of water resistance, but no screw-down crown. We do have hand winding, we do have hacking, and that's about it. So getting into this dial, and that's going to be the main reason you're really buying this watch. And it has this beautiful, beautiful texture to it. Depending on the light, it'll go from a very defined kind of triangular pattern, where some are dark, some are light in opposite directions, to a more defined kind of a diamond pattern that's just spiraling. So it has this really nice, almost pseudo-fume effect. It has this kind of sunburstiness to it. It's very similar to those other types of cocktail timepieces where they're darker in some areas, lighter in some others. But the way these kind of depressed shapes that I guess you could either call diamonds or triangles, they just really do play with the light. They add a lot of depth to the watch. They add this kind of spirally nature to it. And if you get it at the right angle, it actually looks very, very circular. And yeah, it just really is a beautiful texture. But moving away from the texture for a second, obviously we can see we have kind of a mix between numerals and just regular batons that are all regular steel applied. They are in this kind of matte rather than a complete high polish, or at least that's the way they appear. I believe the indices have some polish to them. We also have the classic kind of Seiko sword style hands here, the Dauphine style hands, and we can see that half of the hands are polished and half of the hands are kind of in this blasted matte type look. I think it would have looked less contrasty against the dial if they would have went for a half brushed instead of this kind of blasted finish, but it's still nice. Overall, really well done dial. I like how they kind of kept a little silver marker or metal applied marker over here by the date window. Nice little touch. Really clean, and yeah, let's take a closer look. So zooming in really close here, we can see how crazy that texture really is. It has this kind of interesting graininess to this, almost like a metallic sheen. It has these kind of areas, as you can see there, it looks almost like dark triangles and light triangles, but as you shift the light, it goes to complete diamonds where the kind of middle portion is a little raised, and it creates a very, very dynamic texture, very lively, just really looking dial. And as you can see, towards the middle, they're a little bit more elongated, get a little bit more fatter and chubbier, I guess, towards the outside. But yeah, beautifully done texture. Again, hard to get over this dial here. So looking at kind of the markers itself, as you can see, it has this kind of like matted metallic finish to it. And if we look at the minute marker here, we can see it has that same kind of metallic, grainy appearance on the top, but it's actually polished on the sides there. And it's really nice that they didn't go for a flat one-dimensional marker. It actually has, you know, three distinct kind of sides to it. And now that we're actually at this magnification, you can see that kind of blasted finish to the hands is the same for the markers and everything else. So I do take back my words in saying it is a little bit of a mismatch, but it really does stand out very apparently on the hands from the wrist. As you can see, all the printing on the dial, the Presage, the automatic, the actual Seiko logo, and if it'll focus, even the actual like minute marker track has this kind of sheen to it. So it's kind of nice that it's all tied together with all those elements. I mean, as you can see, there is a little bit roughness to the way the marker is applied there. It is not going to be perfect, especially at this price point, but overall, I mean, it doesn't look that bad. There aren't many imperfections, if any imperfections, really at all that are major here. Again, a little bit roughness on the hands and whatnot. Looking at the pattern itself, it's not like there's really any misshapen elements to it. It's all really well printed and well executed. And I think right there you can actually kind of see there's a little roughness to the edge of that date window, which is a little unfortunate. It isn't an area you really see very often, but it sucks to see that that's actually there. I would like to see something a little bit more nicely finished. You can actually see it on both sides, but hey, it's not something you notice from the wrist, so I guess I can live with it. So looking at the case, it is very, very well done. It is basically a shrunken down version of the traditional cocktail time case. It is all polished everywhere. As you can see, it has a pretty nice curve down to just the case profile there. This case back will most likely just sit into the wrist pretty well, so the case can conform pretty nicely. I would like to see drilled lug holes. That'd be my only addition. I know it is kind of almost a dressier watch, but I mean, hey, even Grand Seiko does it, so I don't see why Seiko couldn't. As you can see, we have a nice little signed Seiko S crown there. Again, that kind of boxed Hardlex crystal. You do get some distortions at the edge here. I mean, I know a lot of people would have liked sapphire, and at this kind of 400-ish, whatever retail price it is, price point, I mean, they definitely could have gone for sapphire. I do think it would have been more expensive if they did a sapphire with a dome like this, especially from being a big brand like Seiko. They don't really save that for their entry level. But overall, I don't really mind the Hardlex. Yes, it scratches a little easier, but it does add to the charm of the watch. Flipping it over to the back, we do see we have a display case back with a traditional undecorated Seiko movement. Nothing crazy to look at. I mean, it looks almost very similar to the decoration you would get from the Seiko SNK series, which is a little unfortunate. I would like to see them kind of add some more decoration to their mid-range watches, but overall, it is always nice to see the movement, and at least it is still not too shabby to look at. One thing I would like to note before we move on, we can see the crown there kind of juts out from the case a lot. It almost has an actual visible gap to it too, because it kind of narrows down towards the case. I would like to see a little bit more refinement in the crown. I do think it looks a little bit awkward sometimes, just having this kind of like one strip of knurling and then these two kind of more sculpted sections here. It sits into the case weird. I don't love how it looks with the watch. Overall, when you kind of have it on the wrist, it isn't that big of a deal, but it is something I definitely do end up noticing a couple times throughout the day. So moving on to how the watch wears, and before I do that completely, earlier I was wearing my Seiko Presage Cocktail Time. This is the Mockingbird, and just to kind of give a little visual comparison of these two models, as we can see, the blue one here is looking a lot smaller. It has a very much smaller footprint. This is like a 40.5mm case versus a 38.5, give or take. So it is quite a bit of a difference, and if you have a smaller wrist, this is definitely going to be the one to go for. So here we have the watch on my 6.5-inch wrist, and here I think you can really just see how well it sits within the boundaries of my wrist. The lug-to-lug is very constrained. The size is pretty much perfect. Having a sub 40mm, even Seiko, is just really nice to see. I hope this is, a continuation of a trend of seeing smaller watches. As you can see, the strap is a little bit on the longer side, so if you have a smaller wrist like mine, it is going to have that a little unnecessary dangly, but you can also get a secondary market strap. I do really like the strap that they went with. It's this very, very dark blue, which kind of really plays off the tones when the dial goes really, really dark. It is supplied on this deployant strap. It is a pretty decent deployant for, the price that you're paying. It's very easy to use, feels pretty secure. Nothing super crazy, but always nice to see. It sits pretty well on the wrist, pretty flat. It's not a thick watch by any means, so it really, really is just a comfortable watch to wear, and I think Seiko did really, really great on the sizing here. And one thing to note, they did go with quick release spring bars, which is always just nice to see. So here we have this watch on this kind of khaki colored strap from a curated wrist. I think it matches the blue tones of the watch really, really nicely. Kind of dresses it down as well because it has this kind of like rougher like texture to the leather. So it makes it a little bit more casual than the kind of very shiny, dressy strap that it comes with the watch. This strap is a little more conformed to my wrist, so you can kind of just see how well the watch wears now. Again, if you have a 6.5-inch wrist like I do, maybe even a 6-inch wrist, it's going to fit you perfectly. If you're going to like more 7.5-inch wrist territory, it'll probably start being, are you okay with wearing a smaller watch? If not, go for the regular Cocktail Time series at 40. So here we have this pink silicone strap that I got off of Amazon. It is definitely a more casual combination. It makes the watch a little bit more fun, a little bit more bright, and yeah, perfect combination for maybe summer, or if you just don't want to wear leather, or you just want to, again, make the watch a little more casual. And then there we have a quick look of it with the silicone strap. I think it pairs perfectly, and yeah, I just love silicone. And last we have this nice one-piece NATO strap from Benchmark Straps off of Amazon. I think, again, this watch works really well with tan and light browns and pinks and certain shades of blue. And yeah, I think it's just a nice, fun combination. Again, a little more casual as well. And there we have it on my wrist. Again, The sizing on this watch is great. So moving on to pros and cons of this watch, of course starting with pros, the biggest one for me, of course, will be the sizing. I mean, it fits so well. It is very elegant. It's not too thick. It's not too long in the lugs like something like a Nomos would be. And yeah, I think it's just a pretty good package. And bouncing off of that, the dial is amazing. The texture of it, the depth of the texture, the dynamicism of the changing of color from dark to light to the diamond pattern to the triangular pattern. It really is a lively dial, and at some kind of certain lighting situations, it'll go from that nice kind of navyish blue to almost like a slight hint of indigo. So it really is a very, very cool dial. And I think one of the last pros for me would be just the price of it. I think it kind of retails around the give or take $400 mark. I bought mine new from an actual AD for $370, give or take. So, I mean, you can get this watch for a very decently affordable price. Based on how the current cocktail times are, I think those are retailing closer to like the $300 mark on the used market and eBay and stuff like that. So I would imagine this going around a similar price point. And for that price, you're getting a lot of watch. You're getting a great dial, great size, and it can very well be either your kind of only watch, give or take, or your only dressy watch, really. So moving on to cons, and there aren't honestly a lot with this watch. One of the main cons I can see is like the Hardlex crystal. Again, that's going to be a point of contention for people. I personally do not have a problem with it, but I can see how many people would. One of the actual cons I could see happening is the fact that it is very much a dressier piece. The texture leans dressy. The kind of sizing of it leans dressy. So when you're getting this watch, you gotta kind of think, are you gonna be able to wear it casually? Some people don't really like to wear dress watches casually. I don't think it really works well with like NATOs and the kind of purlons and things that are like overly textured as well. So you kind of have to stick to like leather straps and casual leather straps, or the odd silicone here that works with it. So it's not going to be as versatile as other pieces in the collection. So that's kind of like the main con. But other than that, in my personal opinion, there's not really much else. Final thoughts. I mean, if you're even interested in this watch and you can swing it, I mean, I think you should go for it. It is a well-wearing watch. It is a beautiful looking watch. And I don't see many people who would hate owning it. Again, it's for those people who don't like dress watches. Again, this won't be for you, but for those people who are kind of either looking for a nice everyday dress watch, a nice watch to wear to the office, kind of just a watch that can stand in the watch box and be beautiful. It's not a diver, it's not a field watch. It is just a watch meant to look gorgeous, really. And this watch does that. The dial's amazing, the sizing is really, really nice. And for some people too, this might be kind of a foray into smaller sizes. At 38.5 millimeters, it is kind of a nice step down from 40 while not being too dramatic. So it really is a great watch. If you're thinking about getting one, just get one. I hope you enjoyed the review. Hope you got something out of it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another one.